30K in 30 days. That's what we call our fast track implementation process. Okay. Now, there's some additional requirements. Okay. So keep in mind that if I say it's a unique window of that 30K environment. Okay. And this sort of talks about the four main buckets of MetaViewer when it comes. First of all, where do you store those documents? We are running in a SQL environment, millions of documents a week into solutions like MetaViewer. Using a unique calling environment and calling those back into the SQL, the ability to store more documents. Nobody's storing less. The other thing is the AP automation environment. If you purchase that in your organization, even outside of AP, you could store HR information in your organization. So after that, every invoice is unique to the individual vendor. One-time setup, after that's done once, there's not a need to do it again. Now, if you're scanning things, we're going to get that through an OCR process. So that's optical character-based application that's readable, so you can actually choose that. We also have your traditional ways of getting paper in there, being indexing, data population, all your traditional ways, barcoding. They're a big differentiator for us and some of the other people out there in the market is because we truly believe that's where the ROI is going to come into play for most organizations. Very well, and we're going to have a much higher accuracy when it comes to the AP automation printed on. Now, if you get documents electronically and they're sending very accurate, because we're literally cutting and pasting the information from that document. And when it comes to monitoring, there's all the different ways that we can upload information to a portal environment. Many different ways can we actually monitor that. Our workflow is what we call visualizations. So like with conditional expressions, so if then, what if type statements. You don't need to be a coder to be able to do workflow. As long as you create your own workflow, add workflow steps, but we're not Mother Henish. I really want to empower you as much as an organization to take ownership of this. Through the workflow, we can do the GL coding, we do 2- and 3-way matching, and see what's going on with those documents throughout the process. We happen to call that pretty self-explanatory retrieval. Okay, if it's a capability, so you can search for every word and phrase on every electronic paper-based document, and it's OCR'd and only some of it's you're only going to be able to search on what was indexed to be able to find that application or that. We're able to do this because we are a web-based application. They'd be able to log in from any really device that they chose to, as long as they do that. Now with that, we can also give external people, like with your organization. In other words, they can go out there to a portal and find out where their invoices are. It does the vendor portal. It can eliminate about 80% of those calls of where's my check, efficiency that we can bring when it comes to the MetaViewer product. Now, with that would be considered a unique and additional requirement, okay? But it would be outside of that fast track process. Network folder, email, MFP, that's most multifunctional printers to be able to scan that information and get it in there. I'm going to jump into MetaViewer just real quickly to sort of show you that, and it's not going to happen until I get information in there. You can see that we review our vendor portal where there's no information in there right now. Because in there, here's invoices that I'm going to pull into the system, some of these accelerator tool, and as I do that, processed in the MetaViewer system. Some of them are going to need profile viewer because they already have a profile that's been built for them. And that is just a one. Go ahead and close that. And now we have the invoice accelerator, you guys. There we go. So now what I'm doing is I'm building a profile unless something on the invoice changes from that individual vendor. So each vendor, I like to say this takes no longer than doing data entry once. And then after that, some key indicators, basically letting me know that with this is going to equal Midwest Travel Center. The first thing I'm going to do here, section. So we have Midwest Travel. Yep, that looks correct. Off of the master vendor table, not off of the invoice, but actually off the information off of that card, we could do that. For the demo purposes, we just have those two things, additional, unique and additional requirement, but it's not going to be a huge process. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start looking number and make sure that it found it correctly. Because what you're going to find is we're going to try to find these things without us having to do anything. So here it found invoice date. For some reason it didn't capture that. And for some reason I'm having a little bit of a... Okay, so we just highlight it, pull it in. Now we're going to look for what we call the footer information. This doesn't have discount amounts or freight amount or miscellaneous amount. And then we have the invoice total. So this looks good. I've already done the next one. This next one I'm going to do a little quicker. The other thing I want to point out is those other, invoices automatically went right into MetaViewer. Files built, you're going to start at the next stage and not have to do this again. Yep, looks good, looks good. Okay. This is invoice, so we'll go to the second page. As you can see, it's smart enough, even though there's a sub-capture that, it's going to continue to look through the document until it finds, sure, grabbed it correctly. Base lookup. Yep, Carlton Specialties, good. Into
There you go.
the MetaViewer product. We're going to see these windows start and evolve. Now, they're all 30 days plus, and that's purely because in a production environment or within your organization, these would be, moving. Is what we call that vendor view again, or that vendor portal. They're new, and then as we go through the process, that area is going to change. So the first thing we're going to do in MetaViewer is do a verification stage. So somebody looks at them and they go, okay, this needs to go to this person, this goes to this person, they have everything that they need on them. So open that up. Invoice is already over here, so it's letting me know that I have that information. Implementation. One of the things you need to do here is you would actually have to base. You need to go through an approval process. So we'll go ahead and click on, and now that is automatically going to be routed over to Joe. It'll move me to the next. Once again, this one I'll send over a little bit quicker, purely out of time here, but I do want to get them into the system here that it gets approved appropriately. Now, this could also be set up as all invoices from A through C go to Joe. Everything, absolutely, we can automate that process. That would be considered a unique and additional escalation. So this went to Joe, but it's above his threshold, but it would be a unique and additional requirement. Implementing it this way has been very successful. And then maybe after a week, 2 months, there's a customer that, and then they're going to make a decision on what they want to do based on if they need to. Okay. Now this is a PO. These ones real quick here from a PO standpoint, and really as a verification to move through the process. To get, complacent per se, and just be able to get in here. So plug in a dollar amount, or plug in the tax. As you can see, I could just click through that very quickly. You have some in final review already, so these charts are continuing as well. See, now they're already in process. So that vendor. So the first thing we're going to look at is we're going to go ahead and approve. This is the power user. So this user here has a lot of things, and you're going to see that the things that they can do are much less. One of the things we have done is we've caught duplicates. So some of the invoices that I will catch those, and then you can go out there and make a decision if you want to delete that. I would just delete this one. The other thing you can do, that is a duplicate, and then go ahead and delete it. Approval process. So now I'm going to go ahead and load in those invoices. So as you can see, Joe has accomplished. So it can let you know your workload as well, what you need to do. So this invoice is $73,500. This is because it's a required field. Assign that to Sally, and he's going to ping that it already says verified. Once I do this, it's going to say that Joe is doing what with his document at any given time. 6643, that's within his threshold, so Joe's just going to. We have some waiting for GL coding. Get those other ones taken care of. Every day. So she could get an email notification letting her know that she has some area that she needs to be in. We do have single sign-on authentication. This one isn't hers, so she's going to $0 there, then reassign that one. That taken care of. Approve this one. All right. They can reject that. They can push it back down to AP, a blank approver. And that's that one that Sally pushed back to the AP user, put in a $0 amount, and now, and they would just go into their bucket and go ahead and get these approved. So now we've approved them. Now the next step in this process is to go into the GP application. So let's take a second look at them here. And before this grid down here, which is mimicking, and that will pause the grid to actually populate. So we'll put in, for people when they were approving it, that's fine, we could do that. Implementation. Dollar amount, we've pulled in the tax information, and we pulled in, different line items, or this wasn't the right coding that we were able to pull down. We do mimicking that over here, and you can just select it as you type. It'll check this one, change it over to here, and do what you need to do there. Now I'm going to want to delete it, and just go ahead and approve this because approving coding there as well. So you can see them in the GP application. Get one more over there. All right, there we go. Yep, okay. Got them GL coded, and now we're going to see down here where now we need to take care of the PO-based invoices approved during the PO process. So what we're doing here is we're going to do the math, also the PO. Really, though, at the end of the day, the received goods is what we're something to reference. Maybe they only ship partial at a time or something of that nature. Dollar amount. And then we're seeing that it's actually pulling in. Also could look at the purchasing document with the PO. 25, take a look at it, go, okay, everything looks good there. Matches up 1 and 25, 35,000, 35,000, okay. The dollar amount, just hit the complete button. So 1185.70, 221, yep. And I'm going to go through these. I'm going to speed it up a little bit here and actually do receiving against the shipping list a little quicker here on some of these. That looks good. Go ahead and complete 78.2. There we go. And as you can see, if I do something incorrect until that's taken care of. Now, if you wanted to, you could have can build that in there as tolerances. Now, this one is unique here because on the invoice they actually paid tax. Okay, so that, or I could actually change the tax and just short pay that by 105, put in the 120. Or you could have a plus or minus tolerance where it would automatically just complete it anyways. Now this one, 69.92. Nothing's been received against this invoice or for this invoice. So I can look at that. Yep. Now I'm going to go ahead and get out of this within MetaViewer as well. So what we would do is, because OCRing these really isn't pretty based on the content and in there and having them. Now you have the PO number, so once I put the PO number in, then it populated this grid based on the information off of the PO. This stage, this is actually being pushed into GP. And I want to show you where it's received. Go to the very first. I have run into a problem because I forgot to change that quantity at the bottom. Anyways, I forgot to change that to 4. I would post this then. First of all, I got to get rid of it. Now that's actually posting it into GP receiving document. So no, don't care, okay. Okay. PO processing area that I was in. Populate it, see what I can do. See, and that should be able to adjust it. Somehow I'm off the shipper there, and then also, what's that way, we could actually create the shipper and receiver right here and push. So a couple different things that we can actually do there. I'm going to get into GP and show you guys where these transactions are and all the related documents in GP. So in other words, the documents from MetaViewer. You can see this is that one for 25 in 1. If I click on this button up here, it's now opening up. We can also see who did what, you know, the coding, the verification is automatically going to refresh without us having to do anything to it, you know. We'll close that one now, open up the next area, even though I changed screens within the GP application. So I think we got that as well. The reason why I showed you those components that we do have with there, you know, we can create the shipper and receiver, actually the check when it's done, so we're going to do a print capture of that. So we're going to have the invoice, we're going to have the purchase order, we're going to have as well. So we have all the information that you need in case you get it off. The other thing we can go back to now is we can look at this vendor, and you can see, let me refresh that. So some of these I didn't actually get to, but you can see as these change, it's a little bit better. So what have we done so far? We've gotten all the POs, we've created a profile, we've done all the approval process for a PO GL coding for that and pushed it into GP. For the PO-based application, verified that and then pushed that into the GP application. Back into the PowerPoint shortly here. Those email notifications, you know, once again, move or take care of, so they're not having to worry about logging into MetaViewer vendors in case something was incorrect and they need to resend you an invoice addressed in MetaViewer as well and sent out. Documents at a time, right? So, you know, if you have invoices that come in there, put them in there. Absolutely. The only caveat to that is we either invoices so we can know that, okay, every third page there's going to be a new invoice. Every laminated barcode separator sheet, that barcode basically just says we use those separator sheets. So either we need to know per page or, okay. A couple other things with document retention. We absolutely have a process there. Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years? And we had set that up. They would go ahead and be purged from the system. Now, is what we do recommend. So instead of just purging them out of the system, somebody has to finally click and say if you're going through some kind of a legal dispute for whatever reason in the 7 years or 10 years. And you need to make sure those aren't checked just to make sure before they get purged out of the system. As you saw as we went through this changed, but let me show you how something that really end users can do. So you guys as individuals would get some education on how to do that, and you would move forward from there. For all the invoices that I currently have in the system, now before I do the chart to Excel and then do my appropriate manipulations that I wanted to within the exported it, there it is, it's already there. From here, go ahead and manipulate that, create your pivot tables, whatever you need to do with that data. And export it very quickly out of MetaViewer as well. Now go to add a chart. From here I want to do it by category versus numbers together. So you add the dollars together versus count how many invoices you have. Vertical bar chart, and I'm going to do that by assigned tools. And then I want to put a threshold of 6. So I don't want any one of those at a time to take care of. So save, include it, and then share this with others. So now other people inherit us to this same exact chart. Now let me show you how that would. He's going to add a chart. Now this other extra window is going to drag an existing chart. He's going to select an existing one. You can see that's where Jackie's. We know that whatever changes I make to this chart, it's not going to affect other people in my. Try that. Included on the home page of that threshold. Go ahead and click the save. So you see it there. If I go over here as well, and then still it's there for Sally as well. So very quickly, of those main charts that I had as here, we also are using SQL reporting services. So if you're familiar with that, or your partner could, or we could for you as well. So it's management. And we do have automation components for AR today. You may have a paper-intensive approval process that you're looking at. Okay.
We didn't have any in the chat, but what we learned today? Looks like there's no questions.
Go ahead. What?
I said, looks like you were very thorough.
To be able to show this to more people in your organization, reach out to Timothy and KTL, or if you have questions that we weren't able to address here, please ask them of them.
Thanks everybody for attending, and this webinar is over.